I just saw her grab her and pulled the sheet off her head and picked her up. I looked at her and I said, "You okay?" And she was just...
If you saw this story from the outside, it would look like a miracle. A woman survives a brutal home invasion on New Year's night, her ex-husband rushes in just in time, unties her, saves her life. A hero. That's how it looked. But what if I told you, the man who saved her was the one who almost destroyed her? Because this isn't just a crime story. This is a story about control, obsession, and a plan so calculated, it almost worked perfectly. Morgan Metz was living what looked like a fresh start. In Canton, Georgia, she was rebuilding her life with her 2 children, running a successful interior design business, and finally stepping out of a marriage that had quietly broken her over the years. To the outside world, she was strong, independent, and thriving. But what people didn't see was everything she had survived just to get there. Because Morgan's story didn't begin on that night. It began years earlier, when she was just 14 years old. That's when she met Rod Metzer. He was older, confident, charming, the kind of person who knew exactly what to say and how to say it. From the very first night, he made her feel special. He introduced her to his family almost immediately, telling his mother, "You're going to meet Morgan tonight, be nice." And for Morgan it felt like something real, something intense. She later described it as love at first sight, fast, overwhelming, almost too perfect. He treated her like she was everything, his princess. And for years that illusion held. They dated for 7 years before getting married in 2009. On the surface, it was the beginning of a perfect life. But almost immediately, tragedy struck. Rod's younger brother Kevin died after battling leukemia. The loss shattered him. And Morgan became his emotional anchor, the one person he clung to as everything else fell apart. But grief didn't just bring them closer, it changed him. Then came another devastating loss. Their own child, also named Kevin, was born premature with a heart defect and survived only 18 days. In just over a year they had lost 2 lives, 2 Kevins. And something inside Rod shifted again. What had once been love slowly started turning into dependence, and then into control. Years later, Morgan would describe what followed not as a series of incidents, but as a pattern. A slow, calculated breakdown of her identity. The first time he became physically violent, it wasn't just the act itself, it was what came after. He rewrote the story. He convinced their friends, even her own parents, that she was the problem, that she was unstable. And just like that, her support system began to disappear. One by one. That isolation wasn't accidental. It was strategy. Rod didn't just control her actions, he controlled her reality. He would start arguments, then deny they ever happened. Accuse her of things she never did. Make her question her own memory. At one point he even threw himself down a staircase, then told their children, "Look what your mom did." Imagine that level of manipulation, rewriting reality in front of your own kids. And it didn't stop there. He watched her, installed surveillance, went through her phone, tried to crack her passwords, even secretly took photos of her while she was showering, images she wouldn't discover until police later found them. What looked like a marriage from the outside was actually a controlled environment where nothing was private and nothing was safe. Meanwhile, their lives began shifting in another way. Rod lost his job. His sense of control started slipping. But Morgan? She was rising. She built her own business, Shiplap and Sugar, and it was thriving. By 2020, she had become the primary provider, winning local awards and building something of her own. And for someone like Rod, that was a threat, because control was everything to him. In 2020, Morgan finally made a decision. She filed for divorce. And by December, it was finalized. For the first time in years, she could breathe. Friends noticed it immediately. She looked lighter, calmer, free. But Rod? He wasn't done. He kept texting, calling, begging, promising change, telling her she could quit her job, that he'd fix everything. But Morgan didn't go back. She had already seen the truth. Then, just days after Christmas, he came back with a new story. Cancer. He told her he had pancreatic cancer. Showed her documents. A diagnosis. Hospital bills. He looked scared, vulnerable. And Morgan, despite everything, let him stay. Because he was still the father of her children. Because she believed he was dying. But none of it was real. The diagnosis was fake. The doctor didn't exist. The documents were fabricated using a fake email account he created himself. And while Morgan thought she was helping a sick man, Rod was doing something else entirely. He was preparing. He disabled the home security system, carefully tampering with a window sensor so it would appear closed even when opened. He studied her routines, watched her, planned everything down to the smallest detail. Then came New Year's Eve. Morgan told him to leave, and he did. But not before leaving behind a check, $56,000. A final emotional move, a manipulation. The check would have bounced, but it served its purpose. That night, Morgan went back home, alone. Just after midnight, she woke up to a figure standing in her doorway, dressed in black, completely still. And then violence. He attacked her brutally, pistol whipped her, beat her, strangled her. Not once, but twice. Bound her with zip ties he had prepared in advance. His voice was disguised, deep and altered. But in that moment, Morgan knew. She knew exactly who it was. And she made a decision that saved her life. She pretended she didn't know, because if he realized she recognized him, she might not survive. So she stayed calm, answered his questions, played along, endured everything he did, because survival was the only goal. He assaulted her, stole from her, forced her to unlock her phone, deleted security footage, then dragged her outside, bound and hooded, leaving her on the cold porch. "Don't move, or I'll kill you." And then he left. 40 minutes later, footsteps. Rod. The same man. The rescuer. Untying her. Holding her. Calling 911. Playing the role perfectly. But this time, the story didn't hold. Because Morgan spoke. She told investigators the truth, that she recognized him. Not by his face, but by the way he moved, the way he spoke, the way he existed in that space. And from there, everything unraveled. Hidden photos. Fake cancer documents. Zip ties matching perfectly. Surveillance footage exposing his lies. Search history revealing everything, how to choke someone, how to fake illness, how to manipulate. This wasn't random. This was planned. He wanted to destroy her, then save her, and become her hero again. But instead, he exposed himself. Rod Metzer was arrested and later pleaded guilty to multiple charges. He was sentenced to decades in prison. And Morgan? She survived. Not just physically, but mentally. She stood in court, faced him, and said something that defined everything. "You tried to break me, but you made me stronger." Because in the end, this wasn't just about a crime. It was about control. About manipulation so deep it rewrites reality. And about a woman who, in her darkest moment, chose survival over fear.